Yo, whoever that guy was, he's pretty good. Hey everybody, welcome back to Good Spirit acts as a BKD. Today we're going to be talking about the concept of blind fighting, and forgive my lack of enthusiasm. Um, I'm doing this in the morning, so everybody's kind of sleeping right now. So blind fighting is interesting. That bag you saw me using is a sandbag, so it strengthens my limbs a bit. But if I hit it too hard, I might hurt myself a little. But that's why you don't see much penetration going on. It's quite heavy, but it is good for limb strengthening, especially with impact strengthening. So blind fighting in real life versus Dungeons and Dragons style, right? You get points in blind fighting if you guys go down that route. It's just like I can hear the enemy swinging at me. Well, that's a little bit different. I mean, who can really do that? Um, when they talk about enhanced senses, something like that, it's not that your ears get better, like you literally get more sensitive ears. If you lose your sight, it's just you're more perceptive on the individual sounds. Um, so, for example, in that kind of blind fighting, the one you just saw me doing, it's you touch the enemy because touch is interesting. Your response time from sight versus touch is different. For sight it's like 0.25 seconds response time because you have to analyze. Your brain does a whole bunch of stuff, and you when you see something, you don't see the thing, you see the meaning of the thing. So like cat on my lap, he's always here, or this cup, I see coffee, and then I see what a cup can do. It can hold liquid. I don't see cup. I mean, what is a cup? A cup does a bunch of things. You see the meaning behind something. But when you feel, you feel it's lower resolution. You might think of the meaning, but you can't envision its entirety just by touching it. But if you know you're under threat, like one of the reasons it is good to practice blind fighting like that is because in the fray of combat, when things get chaotic, oftentimes sight is for one of the first things to go. Um, so this is one of the things where you actually kind of dumb it down once you get into the fray. When you focus on the why of a philosophy, even if it's in like physical combat, you have to do that before you understand why you're fighting before you go into the fight. Even if it's a surprise, you're like, this is a surprise fight. I am harmed. I must deal with the fight, and then we can go back to the why. But within the combat, it's very tough. If you start focusing on the why, you'll get stuck into like a feedback loop. Why am I getting hit? Why am I getting hit again? I'm such a nice person. I don't understand. You have to get your mind out of the why and go to the how. Like, how are you going to overcome this? So you see a lot of the strikes I was doing were body shots, because a lot of the times when you're in combat, those are the fastest ones to do. And people are hunched down. No one fights standing up. So the elbow strikes, they go to the midsection, or the hand is at the head, and you connect the elbow to the hand. That's a lot better than just swinging into the darkness, because you know where your hand is. You could feel hair connect one to the other, and that's how that happens. So that's why your hands are down here. Often you're surprised in karate, from what I understand. So that's why your hands start here at chambers. Worst case scenario. Obviously, when you're fighting, you want them up here to guard the head, because the head is something worthy of protection. So there's this thing, in old school judo called blind fighting, and if you study like prison fighting, you do whatever works. I think that kind of does a disservice to fighting in general, makes it look glamorous as like MMA, and it is glamorous. Like, those guys are hardcore. You do MMA or like movies, they make combat look a lot flashy. It's actually a lot more brutal. Then if you really want to win, eye gouges, groin hits, throat strikes, ear pulls. You do all this stuff that makes you win as opposed to makes you look good. Because in reality, what you want to do, what's practical and what works. The other thing I got going on for me, you saw right there, is like my eyes were closed the entire time. I don't know if you go back and watch, or I'll show another video here soon. Like, on my glasses, they're going to be gone in like 2 seconds of a fight. So that's something I should not rely upon. And people usually throw big haymakers because that's what we're taught to throw, and it's very baboonish. You know, we throw giant punches to the head. We have, especially as males, we have giant craniums that can absorb shots. So it'll be more of like a scarring instead of a lethal killing type thing. That and the old school Ishinra karate itself, you'll notice all the kicks I was doing was like waist or below. It's meant to debilitate somebody. Like those strikes can strike the leg or the knee. And if you ever had a dead leg or watch the guys in MMA kick to the leg, it like stuns it, shocks your leg, so it doesn't work for a little bit. If you hit the knee itself, it actually can like not do permanent nerve damage, but enough nerve damage you actually can't use the knee. So you can get rid of their leg. I mean, that's helps you. And people often don't kick down there in the blind fray. So what you want to do is, outside of the blind fighting itself, in the pure martial artist sense, you want to practice shortcuts in thinking during a fight. So you get a routine and you get a discipline. And this goes for all of life. So I'm going to show a kata we do called Nahanch. And in Nahanch, it starts out pretty simple. There, grab the head, elbow to the head. And that's pushing an arm off if they grapple you. Side kick to the leg, snap to the face. That's a throw, that's a hammer fist, and that's also a throw. And these are muscle memory movements. And those are the kicks I was doing. Just that little step back and forth. This is the same part of the kata, but the other way. It's a little bit faster. I did this on my phone, so the resolution is going to be a little bit different. But it's the same kind of concept. You develop, and this is fighting, you develop a routine. This is the whole point of martial arts. You know what you're doing. Like there, that up and down, I use my left hand. That's someone has an arm on you, you're paring the arm off to get a better advantage in the clinch. This whole kata is meant to be in the clinch itself. Man, I'm watching myself so weird. So how do you apply this to life? Because blind fighting, it's one thing for combat to be a thing, but you as far as I can tell, martial arts is such a great parallel with life that it's almost uncanny. For instance, the self-development, when you work on yourself, you can see it. You can feel it, the presence of the person. If I read a lot, if you articulate a lot, if you talk a lot, if you socialize a lot, that can be felt. If I work out a lot, if I diet myself correctly, that should be seen. It actually affects your very image. I can't do that and have it affect someone else. I might motivate them, but that's about it. So why do we apply this to life? Well, during all sorts of conflicts, specifically war, argument, dark landscape, the first thing that goes is reliable sight. Sight is on par with truth, or light, and the enemy wishes to remove what you use to determine what is true. Now, what is the enemy? Because it could be either evil or tragedy. So tragedy in its purest sense is, mortality. We're all going to die. And we're going to experience pain on the way. These are things that are tragic. It's going to happen, regardless if their people exist or not. You're going to probably lose a loved one or get a disease or know someone that has, or, maybe you'll lose a child or a parent in your lifetime, that kind of thing. So that's tragedy. That's going to happen. That's almost stuff that's like outside of your control, but you should prepare to deal with it because that's how things are. The other thing is, so evil on the flip side of that, well, that's person to person, because evil is from another person and it's intentional, and every person has an evil heart to the point where you need to have a relationship with someone to know you can trust them, even if it is just a casual conversation. It's amazing what language does. So how do you deal with this? How do you find truth? Well, I actually had some of the best discussions I ever had with people about truth itself and goodness itself are actually believers in God, because they're intentionally looking for something outside of themselves and trying to find it. The people who just shut down conversation are people that are usually atheistic, or they hear my beliefs and immediately just assume they know everything about it. But each individual's concept of what God is and religion is so ridiculously complex. It's like it's worthy of going into. So the people that study God himself or Christianity or Allah or anything like that, it's worthy of having conversations even with the people that go to the same church as you or share the same belief structure, to unpack that kind of thing. Because what does good mean? I've asked like 3 people at my work in the past week, what is good? And the best conversation I had with somebody that already believed in God, as I did, to a point. two people couldn't even define it. One person I've been waiting for them a response in like 2 weeks. I think I'm gonna ask them, like, what is good? What is goodness? What does that mean? And as far as I can tell, use your best evidence. And if you want to find a moral sense, you need to establish a way to find truth while there's still light. So this is outside of combat. You use sight when you're able to, but be confident in what you know, even in the fray of chaos. So, when I was doing my kata there and I had my eyes closed, I know to do elbow strikes. I know to do uppercuts. I know to do hook punches or punches from the side. I know to do kicks roughly where the body would be. The legs would also follow, so I know to kick down in that direction. I do it to the point where I use the other person's body as like a counterweight. So you do the same thing with your own values when you navigate life. Like if a decision comes up, when it comes to being faithful to your friends or your spouse, or when it comes to, I don't know, overeating or looking at the proper things on the internet and whatnot, you need to temper yourself based on what you know when you're not in that situation. I have my reading room right behind me, so I read there and I pray and I think. And this is where you have to establish your views outside of the fray itself. If you're constantly in the fray, you're going to die of anxiety. People have to think. And the average person, I forget where I read the study, so forgive me, I can't quote it, thinks about 7 minutes a day. That's it. That includes shower time. Because when you're in your car, what are you doing? You're playing music, or you have your iPod in, or you're texting and walking. Like you're doing all these things. You're not thinking yourself. You're not having a relationship with your own story. You can look at it that way. And it's important to resist temptation lest it take root inside of you. One of the Ishinru codes is, and I'm going to go into all the Ishinru codes eventually, is strike while you can. It's the opportunity to strike is when it presents itself. Something like that. So the person's in front of me, I feel them, strike. Because you might not feel them again. You might not have a chance to strike. And obviously this is very contextual. Like, what if it's your kid? Well, yeah, if you know your kid's in the room and it's dark, you probably shouldn't strike at something that's below your shoulder level. So you use wisdom in all these things too. But if you have the chance to strike, there's this philosophy I learned by reading Rory Miller called delayed conflict is multiplied damage. That goes into that feedback loop again. If you choose not to engage somebody that just hit you, well, they're going to hit you again. Or just stabbed you, they're going to stab you again. You might be bleeding, but it's better one hole one hole inside you is better than having two. Yo. Although both are terrible. Well, this is something that's also extremely important. You should know your worth before conflict. For myself, this is pretty easy. It's a little bit different story once you have a family and children. Like if I were to risk my life on something, it's a little bit different if I'm a single male age 25. Well, I have a lot less to risk, honestly. But right now, I have a wife and 2 kids. I have friends and family. I have a mom and a dad. And they rely on me, so if I risk my life for something foolish, well, I'm literally throwing all of their lives away as well. Because when you lose a family member, it's like an amputation. So it's my daughter's growing up without a dad. I can't have that. So I'm going to be very sure that if I give my life for something, it is worthy of them, and my wife, and my mom, and my job, and my friends. It's worthy of all that. And there are things that are worthy of that. My house being attacked, that kind of thing. I want to make sure if I give my life protecting them, well, that's obviously worthy of them, so that makes sense. You should be strong in your techniques and welcome challenges for strength. Put one foot into the unknown. So that comes with practice. That comes with studying what you believe. That comes with intentionally searching for things that are contrary to your worldview. So what you think you know, you should look into concepts that directly challenge it. They're the opposite. They think they believe the opposite of you, and here is why. And you should be able to defend it. Bertrand Russell said the further you are from truth, the hotter you get. Something like that. I always forget that direct quote. And that's kind of true, right? You believe in something so strongly that you just start screaming about it. Well, that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't even help you. You're just mad about something. Pro-life and pro-choice is a big one. I should have the choice. I should. Well, hold on. That's not helping. Why should you have a choice? Well, where is exactly the line of life? It helps you be unoffendable. It helps you know you're like deeply rooted in truth. So you can know your arguments before you even go into the battle. People that do debates do this constantly. You should study a topic constantly. And debate should always have a direction. Like atheistic versus Christian. What best explains life? That's the goal. Not which one's better, because then you throw stones at each other, nobody wins, and everybody gets dirty. I guess mud's a better analogy there. You throw mud at each other, and nobody wins. You just defame the other. Who's better at defaming the other person as opposed to living for something? Which direction is better? So you should have a foundation, because you can't really go a direction without a foundation. You should know what makes your value true enough, not just relatively true, but objectively. It would be true in all cases. But that's what we're looking for, is objective truth. So the thing you do is you face your fears through incremental practice. This is Moses and the snakes when they raise up the serpent. This is Christ on the cross, because the Christian story, nothing worse happened to a person than happened to Christ. He was innocent. He was young. He got crucified, which was the most extreme form of death. Got beaten to a bloody pulp even before that. Got betrayed by his best friends. And he only did good things. And he was condemned by a politician that didn't care about truth. There's so many things that were just wrong about him, but he went in through it anyway. Like his grounding and reasoning and purpose were so solid that he overcame anyway, to the point of death and resurrection. And you can argue about that stuff, but it's still like, that is as dark as it possibly gets, to the point where even God turns his back on him. So that's worth thinking about. It's like, wow, that's a pretty crazy story. So you should subject yourself to some of the worst case scenarios. Seek to be ordered in chaos. This is integrity, because life will come at you like a flood in Noah, and you know it's going to end. So what are you doing to prepare? That kind of thing. So when the tides come, when conflict happens, when you're in uncertain situations, what remains? And this comes with things that like sever you in life. It's called a psychological death. From what I remember by reading Freud and Jung, it's when things you have that are ordered in your life, and then one thing gets cut from you, like usually a death in the family. It could be a divorce, it could be a house burning down, because that's traumatic. Even moving or changing a job or getting fired, those things not as much as a family member, but those things are still relevant. So when you lose those things, it's like, all right, well, your past is now kind of severed. It's actually rewritten, because what's the point of all your skill sets? Like, they're just kind of wasted because it came to an end, and your future is now uncertain because you don't know where you're going. And then you're like, who are you really if you just had that cut from behind you? So that's something to think about, like, because you are what's left after you sever that part of your life, because it literally destroys a segment of your time as you live. Coming up, cat? You had enough of my lap earlier. Oh no, meow meow. So you want to develop yourself to be strong into the unknown future. Oh, there was a quote. I'm going to look it up now. I should usually prep this stuff, but it's okay on the fly. Put your hand in a God poem. Oh, here we go. Oh my gosh, cat. Come on, buddy. It's Christmas Day, 1939. England has been at war with Germany for some 3 months. King George VI gives his Christmas Day broadcast. In a speech, the king quotes his poem. I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, Give me a light that I may tread safely into the unknown. And he replied, Go out into the darkness and put your hand to the hand of God. That shall be to you better than the light and safer than the known. The king's daughter, Prince Elizabeth, then aged 13, had handed her father the poem by Minnie Lewis Haskins that she thought would be helpful in lifting the hearts of millions at that terrible time. It did, and it does. And that's pretty hardcore, because you're going to have to jump into the unknown, and you're going to have to put your hand into something to help you out. Because sometimes you don't get light, even though you might want it. It just doesn't work like that. You have to, well, be guided even though your eyes are shut. And it's important, right? You should be strong to the point where internally you have something to stand on, even through the darkness of chaos. So it's good to learn to blind fight, both in a moral and a philosophical sense. Gets rid of anxiety, helps you live, helps you be strong, helps you be a light when the chaos does come. And chaos can be wind. It's windy and rainy outside. I get to ride my bike to work, but I'm solid in my skill set. I know what clothing to wear, so I think I'll be okay. But learn to be strong in the techniques you know. There's going to be things that just literally are so devastating to your life that they will kill you. But maybe they won't. And I guess to quote Andrew Clavin, like, you can win a fight. Sorry, you could lose a fight, but you cannot win a surrender. So, like, why not try? Why not make yourself as strong as possible? Why not aim as high as you can? Why not look at an image on somebody else, perhaps? Something that's within arm's reach. Something incremental that you can do. And become a better version of yourself. Why not do that? Sounds fun. Sounds good. So that's all I got to say about that. I'm going to leave with a bit more of a beating on the bag. And watch this next time, because some of these tricks I do, I mean, they're old school karate. So there's no prettiness in karate. That was something that Funakoshi took from Okinawa, because they already had judo. They didn't want the actual practical application of killing. They wanted flashy stuff and high kicks and back fists and all this other stuff that was standing up karate that they could use to visually teach 1 to 30 people or 1 to 100 people. The teacher in the front doing the kata, all the students studying in the back, that kind of thing. Well, karate's brutal. Authentic martial arts is not pretty. It does what it needs to do. Now, there could be beauty in that, and there's an art form in that. And there's something about, quick thinking. You practice to the point where I know exactly what to do given this situation. And that's cool. Authenticity is way better than flashiness, because you're not trying to be an image, you're trying to be the thing itself. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I'm going to take a break here and then pop up some Catacomb Kids because I missed you yesterday. Anyway, take care. God bless.